once again to Margula's Spilling the Tea on Tuesdays. Everything, talking about everything real estate related. So today, I have really good news, amazing news for you. Today, August 12th, 2025, rates, 30-year interest rates on a conforming 30-year mortgage dipped actually, I should say, on these lives, whatever comes out of our mouth comes out of my mouth. So, interest rates dipped to 6.25. 6.25. That's awesome. Now, if you're listening to this because everything I do live is going to stay evergreen on my channel, if you're listening to this in 2026 or 2027, you might be like, oh, Margula, are you off your rocker? 6.25? What's so special about 6.25? We're living in 4% la la land. Okay, well, that is why it is important to know that this industry is extraordinarily fluid. What does that mean? It means that what you buy today or what is on the market or off market, and someone approaches you with a property that is seemingly overpriced, if it's on the block you want and it hits all your check boxes, grab it at 6.25%. Why? Because in a year from now, all your friends are going to be like, how did you get that property on that block for that price? Like I said, real estate, my friends, is fluid. Very, very fluid. Okay, it's like 100 degrees, 100,000 degrees here. Still up in the mountains, the Catskill Mountains. And I love it. However hot it is, it's a whole lot less humid than it is down in the city. So I'm not complaining. And in any event, I love doing my lives outdoors where I could show you the surroundings. If you listen carefully, you hear the birds chirping. Here? Anyways, in any event, so let's talk about buying that amazing property on a block that everyone desires at a price that is seemingly aspirational, if you will. Well, when you find a property that hits your check marks and is in the location you like, no matter where the interest rates are lying, and yes, interest rates dip, which is amazing. It's amazing for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, and it's arranging for my sellers. And I'll explain to you why. But first, can we sidestep and talk about location for a hot minute? Is that okay? All right, no objections? Cool. So, when searching for a property, the first thing you have to do is figure out, where do you want to buy? Which state? Which town? And when you figure out which town, then you're going to narrow it to which neighborhood. And when you figure out which neighborhood, you're going to figure out which block. Well, depending on where you're looking, if you're in a densely populated area like I am in Brooklyn, you're going to have to break it down by which neighborhood. And once you break it up by the neighborhood, you're going to figure out which block in that neighborhood is most desirable. Now, once you narrow that down, the next call is going to be to your trusted mortgage professional. Before you call me, before you call any broker, any real estate broker, you need to have a hard conversation with your mortgage professional so that they will tell you, how much do you have to go shopping with? What is your budget? Most people have no clue. They're just assuming, oh, this number sounds right. Yeah, I could do it. But can you? You need to speak with a mortgage professional who's going to break down your payments and figure out what you can realistically afford, because nobody wants to be house poor. No property is worth it, because if you do, you're going to end up having to sell it. And I certainly wouldn't want anyone whom I'm helping and assisting have to do that. And thank God, in 8 years, to the best, very best of my knowledge, not one buyer ever had to flip the home. None. So once you figure out how much money you can go shopping with, then you know, okay, this is my budget. Where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Is it going to be Brooklyn? Let's say you live in Brooklyn, you love Brooklyn, and you want to live in Brooklyn. And you figure out, see the woods, how beautiful? And you figure out, okay, so for that amount of money, I could get a small little home on one of the most desirable blocks in the neighborhood in Brooklyn that you like. Or I could go a little bit off the beaten path, a little on the outskirts, and get a big ass house. So, you know what I'm going to tell you. Better to get something small in the best location, the best block, than something big in a not so desirable block. Why? Because a house can always be improved upon. You can always, and you can add floors, you can extend within the zone, and you can make it beautiful. There are many creative ways. We personally did that to our home. Many creative ways with how to improve on the space. Here is Stage Door Manor. See. Remember I told you last time, this is a home. This is where Nicole Kidman got her start, Drew Barrymore did, and many others. Isn't this a cool place? Okay, it's many, 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 many decades old. I don't think they've ever changed it or improved on it, the owners. Okay, I'm not going to go inside. I'm not sure if they want me to video inside, but they don't have to improve. They don't have to, because they teach and they breed talent. So they're good. And like I said, this is where many get their start. There are many scouting companies that come here and watch their finales, their shows. Their shows are an amazing. You see, this is Barrymore. Can you see that house? That structure called Barrymore. So many get their starts here, and many get found and discovered. And I think they believe they have it every 3 weeks in the summer. So it's really cool. And we get to enjoy all the music, beautiful musical pieces. It's a little cooler here. So, location. When you know how much money you have to go shopping, and you come to me and say, and you're a buyer, maybe a first-time home buyer, maybe a second, maybe you've already purchased your starter home and you're ready to move on to something bigger and better. Once I know what your budget is, then I could best advise. And I'll say, for this amount of money, you get such and such a property in prime Crown Heights. We're going to use Crown Heights as an example because that's where my farm is. And it may not have parking. Let's say, for example, we'll take $2 million. $2 million, if that's your budget, after flipping your starter home, is $2 million. You spoke with your mortgage, you're $2 million. Well, I'll be very blunt. $2 million in prime Crown Heights, you can get a nice size home property, deferred maintenance condition, that's putting it very politely, and no parking, but you're in prime Crown Heights. Or you can, if you want parking and parking is non-negotiable and $2 million is your absolute highest, you can move a little on the outskirts, a little farther east, and you can get, for even under $2 million, a nice big ass home with parking, also in deferred maintenance condition. But then you're going east of Shore Avenue. So many young families opt to move out of Crown Heights. They move out of Brooklyn, they move out of New York, and there are many communities in neighboring states or in the South that You get a whole lot more bang for your buck. You can get beautiful homes under $1 million with a swimming pool in the south, turnkey condition. And that is why it's super important to know where you want to live. So when I say location, I mean location, location, location. That's prime. And then you can work from there. But let's get back to the interest rate. So interest rates dipped. August 12th, 2025, Tuesday afternoon, 30-year conforming mortgages are at 6.25. So that's amazing news for buyers because it means you can still get homes at pretty good prices at this interest rate. What do I mean by pretty good prices? I mean, the prices haven't yet adjusted to the drop in interest rates. Meaning, while interest rate was, I would say, high at 6.5, 6.75, sellers were keeping the prices pretty stable, understanding that if they really want to sell at this current market, they need to keep their prices in check. With this current dip in interest rates, I haven't seen prices drop. Not yet. Not yet. Okay? Yet is the word, not yet. Don't stand on the sidelines and try to be smarter than everybody else and say, oh, well, Margula, if rates are dipping to 6.25, I'll wait a little bit. I'll wait it out another 6 months. They're going to go down to 6. And they're going to go to 5.75. So why should I be the fool and jump at a property just because the rates are at 6.25? To which my response to you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is don't be a fool. If you find a property that checks off all your boxes, like I keep saying, and it's in the right block, the right neighborhood, the right location, and this is something you absolutely love, grab it. 2 words, grab it. Because if and when, listen, my crystal ball is out of commission, but if and when the rates do continue to drop, will that property even be available? Number one. Number two, you may say, okay, well, there'll be another property. Okay, there'll be another property, but at what price? See, the price that you see that property that you love now at 6.25 interest rate, that price isn't going to be around in 6 months or in a year from now. So if the rates do continue to drop and drop and drop, what happens with prices? Well, to my sellers in the audience, this is good news because as interest rates go down, your buyers are going to explode. And you know that you will have a whole lot more activity on your property. But what's going to happen is the sellers are going to raise their prices. Because once buyers start clamoring for property with dipping and dropping interest rates, what happens? The sellers say, hey, everyone wants my property. And the property prices rise. As what happened in the pandemic, property prices go up as interest rates go down. So right now, I was so excited to hop on to this live because when I saw that the interest rates are at 6.25, even those who are buying in cash, who don't need financing and are blessed with so much cash, interest rates have no bearing on their decision to purchase. Well, let me tell you something. Interest rates always matter because even if you have a whole house full of cash and you have so much you don't know what to do with, if interest rates, sometimes with interest rates with their low, sometimes it's worth it to borrow from the bank. Sometimes it's cheaper to borrow than use your cash to buy. So interest rates matter to everyone across the board. If interest rates are high, yeah, use your cash. But when they're low, Why use your cash when money is so cheap, like it was in the pandemic era? So that's my live. That's what I wanted to come on and talk about. But we're only halfway through, so we have a few more minutes, and we can talk a little bit more. We can talk about okay. Let me see what you all wrote. Okay, great. So that's what I wanted to talk about with interest rates. So giving you a little bit of understanding of how to read the interest rates. Interest rates are important when buying a house. But remember, with interest rates high, the prices drop. When the interest rates start to dip, the prices eventually will climb. Right now, today, Tuesday, August 12th, 2025, prices are still stable. At least I can speak about my neighborhood of Crown Heights in Brooklyn. I mean, prices are always crazy and aspirational and astronomical. But when sellers aren't getting the aspirational price and they really, really want to sell, eventually they'll slowly conform with reality. But with the dip in interest rates, money will become more accessible and buyers will grab that property because there's still a lack of inventory in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, keeping the prices high. So, good news for buyers, interest rates are dipping. Good news for sellers, you're going to have more activity. And with more activity, that can create and promote a bidding war. So that's what I want to talk to you about interest rates. But I see it's only 17 minutes in, and I always promise you 30 minutes of real estate gems. So we talked about location. The first thing to figure out on your journey when embarking on a journey of house hunting, whether it's your starter home, whether you're a first-time home buyer, or you want to move out of your condo or starter home, the very first thing is to figure out your location. Figure out where you want to be. Figure out the state, the neighborhood, and then the block, or at least a 3 or 4 block radius, because you never want to compromise ever on location. You can compromise on everything else. Some people even end up compromising on parking because they figure it out. They can figure it out. They have a friend, a neighbor who has an extra spot and is willing to rent it to them. Listen, I have buyers that say absolutely not. We're not giving up parking. And I respect that. So parking, in my experience with the buyers I serve, is usually non-negotiable. For those that parking is important. Then there are those that don't really care. They don't have a car. They're not interested. They're fine. So you need to figure out what's non-negotiable, your non-negotiable points. Some people must have a 2-family, at least a 2-family, because they want to make income. They don't care about parking, but they want, okay. Hello. Okay. So, sorry for that interruption. That was a phone call. All right. So you need to figure out what your non-negotiables are, whether they're parking, multifamily, and all those are important. And that's something you can't really alter. Location, parking. Listen, if a property doesn't have parking, very often there are ways to work around it, but you really need to check your zoning. You need to hire an architect who can tell you if you can legally do something, what's called curb cut parking. Curb cut parking is when you can create a parking spot in your front yard. but it's not always legal. And it's super important to do it legally, because let me tell you, I was involved in a sale of somebody that he illegally created a parking spot in his front yard. And he was trying to sell it for a very aspirational price. And he's like, here, look, I have parking. It wasn't parking. It was an illegal parking spot. So that completely devalued his property. So you need to be very, very careful. Do it legally. And also, if you do it illegally, you're going to get hit with fines. Those who have dug and made an illegal parking spot, they are fined, and fined heavily, especially in Brooklyn. So be very careful about parking, creating a parking spot, and if it's a non-negotiable, then just move on. You'll find a house with parking. It may not be on the block you want, but like I said, you have to figure out your non-negotiables. So you got location, you got parking, and you have, is it a single family or multifamily? If you do need to generate an income, don't buy a single family and just wing it with sticking people in your illegal basement, because you will be caught and you will go through hell. Let me tell you. So I think we've touched on the basics, and I'm just so excited with this dip in interest rates. So a lot of buyers who are on the fence can move forward knowing that their monthly payments of prices are still stable. They haven't gone up yet. So while the prices are still stable from when it was 6.75% or even 7 to now, that's a 0.75% drop, which could translate into $1,000 or $2,000 a month, or $3,000 a month in payments, depending on what your mortgage is. It's a good time to get off that fence, let me tell you. Again, with all that being said, no one wants to be house poor. So I will close this spilling the tea up with, I just want to say that where I really spill the tea is on my podcast. I share stories, real time, real deals, real people, without, of course, sharing identity, because all that is confidential. But I'll give everything else I share is real. It's not fictional. And every month I choose a different deal, because all my deals are a whole lot better than any soap opera you could ever imagine that ever was on TV. Every deal is drama. And I always, one day maybe I'll write a book, maybe I won't. But meanwhile, I've discovered this podcast platform, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing it, so why not me, Margula? And that's where I have the ability to share, to tell a story. It's not interaction like these YouTube lives. These are interaction. If you have a question or a comment, you can stick it on. I'm not sure if 2 p.m. on a Tuesday is great for everybody, but it works because I like alliterations, like my dear friend Glenda, the queen of Atlanta, likes to say. So, spilling the tea, Tuesdays at 2. Can't spill the tea on Wednesdays at 2, and you can't spill the tea at Tuesdays at 6. Spilling the tea Tuesdays at 2. But on the podcast, that's when I'll really open up the curtain and share with you, my cherished audience, what goes on behind the scenes. Because all you see from me and any other real estate agent on the gram is what happens once the deal closes. We share what an amazing deal it was. We share the property. We sometimes share the people sometimes. But we don't, and you see all the smiles, but you don't really see the behind the scenes. So, okay, that's another look. This is what's going on. This is the country where I am. And that's on my podcast. You'll find it. It's on Apple and Spotify. in the middle of the month, usually on the 15th, that's when it drops. I have one so far, and this week I'm dropping my second. All right, so let's just wrap up about where to buy, buyers, sellers. So I just want to wrap up to close with, don't ever, ever be house poor. It doesn't pay. Even if you see a property and it's multifamily and you got, you know what, I could do the mortgage because I'm going to rent out 2 more spots. And you see, it's 2 more, it's a 3 unit or it's a 2 unit, and I can generate rent from here, rent from there. My advice is don't buy it. Don't ever buy a property when you're actually relying on the rental income to pay your mortgage. Because what if the tenants don't pay? Come on. We're living in Brooklyn. It happens that tenants don't pay. I'm not a rental agent, so I can't really give you the nitty gritty, but I have heard that there are such cases where tenants don't pay. And then what happens? You're out for rent for X amount of months, and then what happens to your beautiful home? So be very, very savvy when purchasing your home. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And maybe just get something smaller. It's okay. When the time is right, you can sell it and get your dream home. But I had a client that almost bought a mega property. I'll call it a jumbo. And the price was in the mid-million, I don't know, this was maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was a 1.5. 6 years ago, 1.5 was a lot of money. And it was pre-pandemic, and they wanted it. It was also deferred maintenance. They needed to dump a pretty penny into that property. They wanted it, but at the end they said, you know what? We're biting off way more than we can chew. Just get us something small, something we can manage. And they did. I found them something, cute little property, and they're very happy. So buy what you can afford. Know your mortgage, know your buying power, know what you have to actually shop with. There's a lot in mortgage payments. It's not just paying back the mortgage, but you have taxes, real estate taxes, insurance, all of that comes out of your mortgage. And your mortgage broker will advise you. And the last thing is, when you do apply we're bundling this all in one because everything interrelates. While I really wanted to talk to you about the dip in interest rates and how to jump on price on it, because we're at the point where interest rates dip, but prices haven't gone up. So get off that fence and write your offer. What was I saying? Okay, I lost my train of thought. There was something else I wanted to talk to you about. Oh yeah, I've seen pitfalls when you got the house, you got your offer accepted, found that beautiful property that hit the check boxes, great location, got your mortgage approved, and then you went and bought some stupid shit, for lack of a better word. And what happens? You think nobody knows? You think the bank's not going to know? Seriously? Bank knows everything. We were ready to close, and the bank says, I'm sorry, we're not lending you this money. And my client said, why? I was pre-approved. You approved me. And the bank said, yeah, we approved you. But that was before you bought that Mercedes truck. Like, seriously? Couldn't wait to buy that Mercedes truck after you close? Like, after you close, after the bank gives you the money? So, if you really need to buy stupid shit, just wait. Wait till you close on the house. Then do whatever you want. Okay? I kept it tight, short, sweet, and tight. We're under 30 minutes. Okay, we just hit the 30-minute mark. And there was even an interruption, and I kept it still to 30 minutes. So, if there's anything that you would like me to discuss or expand on or unpack, anything real estate related, hit me up, comment, send me your comments, questions, concern anything, and it'll be my absolute pleasure to unpack your issues or anything that you would like more clarity on. Anything real estate related, because there's nothing I love talking about more on God's lovely planet than real estate with you. See you next Tuesday at 2.